Back to the way your boss reacts to you if you do something wrong, and they could come across as quite violent in a sense. You're going to put a restriction on that.
Okay, just going to have a few more before we move on to the next point. Josh, Tom, Jack.
I'd like to say, obviously he was saying that should we ban religion because Hitler was trying, should we censor religion because Hitler was trying to, convince Germany to go against Jews. Well, he wasn't like creating a religion himself. He was like just going against a certain one. He wasn't. It doesn't mean we should censor that religion. Right? We should stop people from making offensive points to that religion.
Okay, Tom, Jack, and Christian.
Back to the subject of age ratings. Surely, rather than thinking about censorship and why they should be censored, it really boils down to the state of society that we're in. Rather than thinking about, oh, these kids are playing these games, it's who's letting them play the games. It's not the companies. They're not advertising them to these people. They're putting the age ratings on so people know what's in the game. They're, by law, they're not allowed to be sold to people under that age. So surely it's down to the people who buy the game, and it rests with them, the responsibility.
Okay, again, just the last two. We're going to leave this one now, so just Jack and Christian, because you had your hands up a while ago. No. Okay, with Jack and then Steve.
Well, I think it might have been Steve that mentioned about basically saying that if it's not in a realistic environment or in a setting, then it shouldn't matter because people aren't going to go out and be able to relate to it. But I think a lot of the time, because of, like a fantasy world, for example, can be made and glamorized in a way that we wish we lived in, people will more so go out and do that kind of action that you'll see in the fantasy environment because it's even more glamorous than what you might see in real life. So using On Back, the film, as an example, it's got the sort of say, I'm not sure on the fighting style exactly, but it's like a kung fu kind of Muay Thai. Muay Thai, right? And these styles are created purely for self-defense. They're not made to go out so you can beat people up when you want. But the way the film glamorizes it is a sort of a kick some ass technique. So that if you want to go out and fight somebody who's sat in your seat, that you can do that because you know the way how to do it properly.
Okay. Yeah. One last comment from this side, yeah, Tom?
But when you learn self-defense, you learn the mechanisms when you should use it, and it's all about discipline. So if someone saw that film and thought, I'll go and learn how to do that, they're also taught alongside that quite heavily the discipline that comes with it, when you should use it, how it shouldn't be used.
So when you're playing a game that's really violent, why doesn't it come up with messages telling you not to do it in real life?
Because it's not real.
Because you can't really learn from the game. And you wouldn't run up to someone and press A, B, A, B, A, B in front of their face.
You see a character's actions. You see a character's actions. You know, you see your character punch or shoot, and you learn from that.
But then, if you were to do that, then you wouldn't really. There wouldn't be much effect because you would only. If you were to actually copy that, then what would be the point?
With new games.
Okay, wait, just pause 1 sec. Now we're going to come to Matthew at the back, and then that's it. We're going to move on to the next one.
Going back to what Tom said, that people learn discipline. Just because they learn the discipline doesn't mean they actually follow it. It just means they know how to control it, but they don't actually have to follow it.
Subjective. It all depends on what you do with that information. Yeah?
With what Andy said.
No, afraid we're dropping that one, guys. Then we could go on. I know.
Question, I think.
More. Just, guys, I'm just going to direct this question at Seb, because you're going shortly. So China has been in the news a lot recently because of its extreme views on media censorship. What kind of effect do you think that the government's tight restrictions have on the people of China, Seb? Coming from a pro-censorship stance, do you think it's a good thing? Obviously. What about if I gave you the question about Taliban soldiers in Medal of Honor? Would you be able to give me an answer for that from the pro-censorship side? Why you think that it was a good thing that they changed?
It's a good thing that they changed that because simply it's going to be mainly sold in like America and England and all that. So for those people, they're not going to want to know, like, from the Taliban side, what it was like, you know, to kill American soldiers, because they might have been their families.
It's a reality for them.
Yeah.
Anything else at all? No? Okay, Christian?
In relation to what Seb has just mentioned, is it okay for the American and English armies to have the exact name they would have in actual war.
For example, SAS.
Okay, so what Christian's saying is it okay for the Allied forces to have their official names, whereas why can't you have the opposing force having their official name? No? What? No? Any ideas, you guys? Yeah? Ben?
What immediately comes to my mind is the American and British forces are classified actual forces. They're recognised groups of individuals, and they're there specifically to defend, you know, their own country. Whereas the Taliban have nothing to do with the country they're in. They're not the official, you know, like army of those countries. They're terrorist groups.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that?
Yeah.
Because it's a fact. It's a fact that Talibans are terrorists. It's a terrorist organisation. They're not like the Afghan army, are they? The Afghan army are fighting in their own country against these Taliban. So saying that they're the enemies, first of all, you know, it's important because, you know, the American army shouldn't be bothered that they're being used to fight terrorism. I mean, why wouldn't you want your own country to be portrayed fighting terrorism?
But from the Taliban side, they're thinking that the American and English are the terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair point. Just going to Seb at the back again.
The thing is with games now, a lot of them tend to just glamorise warfare. They show it for what it really isn't. I have seen some instances of some games which do show that it is bad. Like, for example, Call of Duty 4, where the nuclear blast went off. You got yourself crawling out with a helicopter. It kind of gives you an aspect of, it's telling you that, like, you don't want to do this, this is going to be bad. Yeah.
Okay, just come to Tom, you've had your hand up for a while.
Regarding what Dean said about the Taliban, it's not actually the Taliban that the Americans are fighting in Afghanistan. It's the insurgency that's been created by the entry of America and England to that place. So when you said the Afghan army are fighting alongside Americans, it's been mainly their fault that this insurgency and uprising has happened, because they've been treating people badly, really, killing civilians, etc.
I'm just going to redirect the conversation here a second, because what we do need to be thinking about is, okay, do you think that the producers should have given in to public opinion? Okay, why did you think it was a good thing that they changed the name back to opposing force? Or yeah, David, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I do think it's a good thing that they changed it, because this way we're not going to offend. There's going to be a very few people that will get offended by it, opposed to the masses that could have got offended if they kept the name. So like what Chris said about, what about the Talibans if they were to play it? Realistically, how many Talibans do you think are actually going to sit down and play Call of Duty?
Okay guys, yeah, Tom?
But surely that's another reason why it shouldn't be censored, because then in effect they're changing the name to make their audience wider and then to make more money. So.
But then there's still the fact that you're going to be killing our soldiers, and there's still people who's got family members out there, and if they would see that, how do you think they would feel watching people kill what could be their family?
Yeah, Andy?
Yeah, but then why don't every single game that comes out now change its name to, well, change the name? Because then what about for Call of Duty 4, 5 and now Black Ops? Why don't they now change all their names? So like SAS has to become Spec Ops or something like that, because then, to be honest, if you were like an ex-member of the SAS and had a son, you wouldn't want him playing as like Op 4, which is what the Taliban are portrayed as being called in Call of Duty 4.
But they're not actually the Taliban, they're a made-up force, they're not real.
But then why isn't the SAS?
Because
the SAS is a made-up force.
They're meant to be, they're defending.
Yeah, they're part of the storyline of the game, and in Medal of Honor, the Taliban are part of the storyline in the game. So why not portray the multiplayer?
Okay, Steve?
Going to what you were saying, Taliban is obviously real, and they're defending, in a sense, their own country, like America and England is defending theirs. So there doesn't seem to be no point. If you're going to do this, and you need to consider the public have two opinions, and that a possible choice within the game could in fact be implicated. But I mean, if you're going to go down this road, then you could also ban the swastika due to the fact that Hitler destroyed so many Jews and families' lives, and the implication of a swastika within so many games has not actually been arisen before, like this has. That, you know, does that mean you're actually going to go out there and instigate a full-blown censorship over any form of swastika within the movie genres, within the music, well, not music, but in the games or any form of media? I mean, you couldn't really do that because a swastika reversed 45 degrees is a religious symbol based around Buddhism.
About what you were saying with them defending their own countries, quite the opposite. They're attacking their own country, aren't they? The Taliban. They're not defending it at all. They're in the own country.
Again, we don't want to get too hung up on the Taliban right or wrong thing, okay? We are thinking about EA's decision to change the name from Taliban to opposing force, yeah? Alec?
The only reason why they had to change their thing was because the media portrayed it so badly.
Okay.
I mean, EA put it in there to add to the realism of the game in Black Ops. They wanted the people to be playing it to kill like the Taliban, to add realism to the game.
Yeah.
And the only reason why there was so much hype around it was because the media like expanded it so much in so many ways to make it seem like it was the worst thing that could happen to a game.
Yeah. Josh?
To what I like to say, EA has made the game to make money, and if those people disagree with the name of something, they know they're not going to make many sales. So they have to change it to get sales up and to make money, not realism.
Tom?
Surely, like, they should be able to portray two sides of a story, and giving a nameless force just to make money is a bit superlative, really.
Well, it's people. Money makes you happy, as they say.
Can I maybe make a suggestion that EA had done this on purpose because they knew exactly the type of media response it was going to get, particularly when obviously there was the furor surrounding Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and the Russian level in the airport. Do you think that maybe it was something that they did on purpose to make a few more bucks, or yeah, Andrew?
No, because without that, then the story kind of made no sense. Like, you didn't understand.
Which were we talking about?
The
Call of Duty?
Yeah, the level on Call of Duty. If you miss that level, then it's sort of like a main section in the story.
Okay.
You miss out.
Yeah. Christian, you had your hand up there?
No, I've got.
Yeah. Jack?
The problem is, obviously the reason it's changed is because it's public opinion, so the public have outcried wanting it changed. If the public wanted swastikas to be removed from games, they would outcry about it, and the chances are if enough of it got the vote, it'd be removed. And one of the things is that the Taliban is something that's going on now, it's modern. You know, Germany's sort of oppression on other countries in the war and stuff is a long time ago now. People are less offended by that kind of thing than they would be in the Taliban, because people are still fighting.
Do you think then that maybe it would be appropriate to have a level on Medal of Honor where you have to sift through bodies of exterminated Jews? Do you think that would be appropriate because it happened in the past?
No, but it's not trying to recreate the past. It's not trying to recreate anything that's necessarily happened. They're talking about, they spoke to soldiers of using their real life experiences to create something that's realistic. But if there was a game where you know, they were saying about Medal of Honor trying to keep in the dismemberment because it's realistic, but why aren't they keeping in other things? If they're saying for the pure reason that it's not because it's fun or because it's cool, but because it's realistic, then why aren't there other things like doing paperwork and stuff like that? That is also realistic.
Yeah, Charlie.